right, welcome everybody. You are tuned in to It's Covered, the insurance podcast, because if you think insurance is boring, you are not doing it correctly. My name is Paul. I'm here with Mel. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Just glad to be with other people who like insurance.
Yes. So we did a fantastic episode last week. And when I say we, I mean me. But,
I guess it's one of those things you just had to be there, right?
yeah. But it's very good to have you back. For those who are joining us for the first time, I don't know, this is kind of a casual show. We like to have a little bit of fun. The two of us started our insurance careers several years ago in claims, and we have since drifted on over into the agent side of things. And we actually really like this topic and really like exploring insurance topics in general. And so we decided that we would share our interest with the world. And so we try to hit on a little bit of everything here, a little bit of adjuster topics, of agent topics, trying to bridge the gap between the two of them. Try to talk a little bit about service, about our mission as insurance professionals, about, what we're here for, what we're doing. And we'd tackle that in a number of different ways. Today we're actually tackling that topic by looking at a news story that hit last week that, I hate to say that this was a matter of time, but it was. And I'm talking about the very tragic and serious story about a self-driving Uber car in where was this? I know it was in Arizona. Was it in I think it was in Tempe. Let me make sure. Let's get these facts right.
I'm pretty sure it was in Tempe. I think so.
Seriously, people. All right, I'm going to go off on a rant right now that I pulled up an article from the New York Times coverage about this. And I scroll up to the Dateline. Is that what they call it? The first thing where it says where it is, and it says San Francisco. Why in the world would you even put that? It's okay. It's in Tempe. Anyways, you throw me off. This is a serious story, and I was about to say San Francisco and look like an idiot. Thank you, New York Times. But basically, in that area, Uber was testing out their self-driving cars for, to pick up people and, obviously motor them around as Uber does. And so, this is not some robot, taxi guy, like in, what was that in? Was that in, Total Recall?
Where the Johnny Cab, right?
Yeah, Johnny Cab. Yeah. No, it's not like that. There is an actual person inside the driver's seat, but the car is self-driving. So Uber is testing out this market in certain areas. And in this particular case, the car struck a pedestrian who, had a bicycle, but from the video, it didn't look like she was actually riding the bicycle. It looked like she was actually walking. And so, so, like I said, this was something that was going to happen. And, that doesn't mean that we weren't all hoping that it wouldn't happen, but, something was, especially in these testing phases with self-driving cars, and I would say with all safety, safety equipment, they can only be so good. And something was going to something like this was going to happen. And so, our prayers are with the family of the deceased woman, and also with honestly, the driver. I say the driver, the person behind the wheel, because, she was trusting in the technology, and all of a sudden, was witness to this. And, I'm sure, having all sorts of second thoughts about what she could have done as well.
Right. I think, it's really gaining news because of, like you said, it's Uber for one. It's a driverless car,
right?
Or a car that's kind of driving autonomously. Because I'm pretty sure if this was a 30-year-old male that had this had happened to, we wouldn't even hear about it. But because of the circumstances, it's we gotta talk about it because it's the future.
Well, yeah, and that is the reason that this is news, because fatalities happen in car accidents all the time. I mean, I remember in claims that I, on my desk, got 3 of them in 1 week. And that's the most I ever got. It was actually within, I think it was a Monday through Wednesday that I ended up with 3. And that was not the best start of a week ever.
And that's in a limited geographical area.
Right.
That you're
And
getting
I'm
them from.
Right. And I'm one of hundreds of adjusters in this room. Right. And we're only one insurance company. And so, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of accidents every day. And some are minor, some are major, and a lot of them are fatalities. And, the sheer number of them often makes us callous toward the news of them. And so it's only when something like this happens that it actually hits the news. But this is very much newsworthy because, like you said, Mel, this is the future. This is what we're all looking toward. And I wanted to bring this up as it relates to insurance, because we certainly don't know how insurance is going to fall on this. I have some ideas about that, and I'm gonna throw them your way later. But first of all, I've been part of a lot of conversations online where every time some self-driving car news pops up, people go into the insurance, private groups for agents online and start asking the question, is this going to be the end of auto insurance? Because if all these perfectly safe self-driving cars are what we have, then do we really need liability insurance? And I think the enthusiasm that people have in talking about like self-driving cars makes it seem like the technology is closer to becoming widespread than it actually is. And incident like this, actually pushes back the technology, because, they're going back to the drawing boards now. Uber's pulling their self-driving program out, and they are, going back to the drawing board. Everybody's going to be analyzing this for a long time to figure out what went wrong. And that's good. We want that to happen. That's for sure a good thing. But, just to springboard off of this topic into the topic of, how the changes in vehicle technology is going to affect our industry. I think the first thing we got to say is self-driving cars is not going to be a major thing tomorrow.
Not tomorrow. Not that quick. Definitely.
Yeah.
This is it'll take a while to get here. I think, I'm still frustrated from growing up and watching the Jetsons and knowing by the time I hit 40, I'm going to be flying in the air.
Right.
And I'm not close.
Yeah, we've already passed the date where that Back to the Future 2 was set. And they had awesome flying, DeLoreans.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, and it's, I think it's, I think we have all these wonderful ideas about technology, but technology takes time to implement. First of all, there's got to be a lot of testing. And we've been doing testing on self-driving cars for many years now. And we're getting to the point where it's starting to be road tests. And this is going to set that back a little while, but we're going to get back to road tests, and the cars at that point are going to be better. And certainly there are some self-driving cars on the market today. And when we say self-driving, I remember you were telling me today about, who was it that had like this, what do they call it? Like enhanced cruise control?
Oh, that was Cadillac. Yes.
Yeah, Cadillac. And so, yeah, then there's like, if I understood it right, it's meant for the freeway.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not meant for neighborhood travel.
No, not at all. And it's with higher end luxury cars, the automation that they have in them, this just fits right in. It's they've had cruise control for a long time,
sure,
and now adding a little bit more of automation to it, and you get the enhanced cruise control, which it's about the way technology moves forward in increments, and I think this is right on.
Well, yeah, and before that we had, the self-parallel parking, which I still haven't actually experienced because there's not a lot of parallel parking in Houston in general, but the parallel parking we have in Houston is typically like deep inside of Houston, not in the outskirts where we are. And so we don't really parallel park all that much, and my car doesn't have it anyways. But that's the kind of stuff that we have. And so we go from that, from the parallel parking, and then we get kind of the preemptive braking when it senses something in front of you and that you don't react fast enough. And then we get into the enhanced cruise control. But we're talking about freeway travel here, which honestly, I think is actually going to be where most people land on this thing. I personally like driving, and I think that if I had a self-driving car, I could totally see myself once I hit the freeway coming into work or on a long trip, putting that on so I can, watch some Netflix or do some paperwork or something like that. But as far as getting into, getting to my exit and driving into the parking lot, I think for a long time we're going to be handling that part.
Yeah, I think people in general not only like to drive, I think they like to get places faster. I think they like the feeling of being in control. Because whenever I'm driving, I know my wife sitting in the passenger seat, not having a steering wheel to hold on to, not having a brake to press, really freaks her out. And if she, had a steering wheel and she can feel the brakes, then she would feel more in control and she can handle any situation. But people also like taxis and not, having to worry about driving, just kind of sit back and do something else.
Yeah.
And so I can see that side of it as well.
Well, yeah. And so all in all, it's going to take some getting used to. Like, it's easy enough to sit back and relax when you're in the backseat of a taxi or an Uber. But when you're in the front seat, in the steering wheel, you're like in the middle of everything. It's like our instinct to jump in and act on it. But we're going to have to learn. And we're still a ways from even getting that opportunity, because let's just say that starting tomorrow, all the new cars have this, and that's not going to happen, because right now, even the enhanced cruise control is a top of the line luxury car item.
Correct.
It is not in your Camry. As far as I don't think it's in the, isn't it? It's not in the Camry, right?
No.
Yeah. It's certainly not in the base model of anything. And so let's just say that the Camry base model gets it tomorrow. I still don't have it. I'm not buying a car tomorrow. I'm not buying a car anytime soon. The last 2 cars I bought, actually the last 3 cars I bought were all used cars. And so, even if I bought a car tomorrow, it would likely be used. My current car is like 5 years old. And so, even if I updated that with a 3-year-old car and kept doing that, I personally would still be 3 years away from actually seeing one of these in my own vehicle. And I think that's the way with most people. It's like, just for those agents out here, just think about how many 2018 cars do you actually have in your book? Like percentage wise. It's way under 10%, right?
It's got to be really low because, with the 2018s, when they come out, you have the few people that get them or they trade up or their leases or something like that. But as you get older, 2017, 16, 15, then you start really ramping up with how many people have them, because what are leases turned in about every 3 years, or enterprise cars or 3 years or whatever it is, when people tend to trade in those vehicles.
Right.
And then you have the majority of the people that are looking for that bargain, need them cheaper. They can't pay that new car, luxury tax that's on top of, what it's really worth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, all in all, it's going to be, it's going to be a long time before the self-driving cars hit that critical mass in society where like most of the cars on the road are self-driving. And it's going to be much, 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 much longer before we just assume that everything on the road is self-driving. And we're not, I don't think we're talking about years here. I think we're talking decades.
I think that's accurate.
And that's not going to negate the need for insurance. Now, yes, insurance is going to change. Insurance is going to change as the technology changes, but it doesn't make it go away. And I think that we as auto insurers are going to be needed for a very, very, very long time, because this, no matter how good you make the computers, first of all, the collisions are still going to happen. But all of the same comprehensive or other than collision claims that were happening before are probably still going on. The self-driving car is not going to be dodging hail, is what I'm saying. That would be great. That would be most impressive.
Or the rock chips that come up from,
from
the car in front of you.
We'll have Elon Musk start on that right away, and that would be most entertaining to watch, the car just dancing in the parking lot, dodging hail. But it's there's still a lot of things that can happen to a car, and so we're gonna see a shift in the way each coverage is handled. All right, and so what has traditionally been our most expensive coverage, collision, might not in the future be our most expensive coverage. It might not, but it's still going to be needed. And, we're still going to, I basically need all the stuff that we already have. It just might shift around a little bit. So we will need to adjust. And so as a thought experiment, it is worth kind of thinking about already, and and making sure that when the time comes, you have some strength in your homeowner's part of the book, or you have something else going, or you just get more auto customers. But we're still going to be needed for the foreseeable future at very least.
Yeah, I think you're right. And with any industry, whatever the most important coverage is, or most important thing in that industry is, that's going to be what's going to most likely cost the most. Mm-hmm. And I definitely learned that because I'm older, and I remember when cellular calls were the most expensive things of a cellular phone. I remember paying $400 a month, $500 a month just to get more minutes of talk time. Yeah. And now it's free.
Well, and none of us want to use it now, right?
Nobody wants to use it. I remember long distance calls were very expensive. Gosh, now they're free because that's not the thing that they make their money on, or the most expensive things. It's shifted. Right. And that's the same thing with insurance, as you were saying.
I remember getting so frustrated with long distance calls when I, wanted to talk for a long time. Now somebody calls me and I'm like, why in the world are you calling me? Text me. What's wrong with you people?
Exactly.
Well, before we drop this, I wanted to do a for instance on this, kind of speculation on how this, because this is the big question on this, right? Is how is liability paid on this? And we were talking about this earlier today. And for those, for those who, might think that we're live, I don't think you're familiar with the way podcasting works, but we are pre-recorded. And so, when we talked about this story had not broken, and I just pulled up the story. I see it from like an hour and a half ago, and I'm so glad that we couldn't record until this moment, because this actually changes my entire opinion about it. But first of all, let's talk let's just assume, as everybody did assume, the car is at fault here. How is this getting paid out? And the answer to that is going to be, well, it depends. And it's going to depend on what really happened there. Was this actually the fault of the particular person behind the wheel? Or was this some error in the car system, some glitch or fault in the system itself? And I remember the claims that popped up because and Mel, you remember the fiasco. This was many years ago, but all the Toyota brake recalls.
Oh yeah.
Toyota paid out a ton of those claims. And it turned out to be really interesting because if I remember right, Toyota did some research afterwards and figured out that none of those accidents were actually their fault. But I mean, this was happening. This was rampant. Anybody in a Toyota who got into an accident, they said, "Oh, the brakes failed." The brakes didn't fail. You weren't paying attention, but it was just like the brakes failed, and Toyota paid out a lot of those claims, and so that might actually happen here. What is likely going to happen, if I were to guess, assuming that the car was at fault, is that Uber's insurance would pay out and then go after the car manufacturer for it. And how that plays out, it's probably going to take some engineers and, really looking into it and figuring out exactly what happened there. I don't know. This whole field is so new. I don't know what responsibility is on that driver to override the car and slam on those brakes. And I think there's probably some responsibility there, but I think it's once this hits the court, I think it's going to possibly be ruled that it's a split responsibility.
That sounds really accurate, just because if we're throwing that kind of automation along with cruise control, along with the automatic braking, nobody would ever say that, hey, I'm sorry, I had my car on cruise control and you got in my lane and I just rear-ended you. It's not my fault. It's the car's fault. And then that would never happen. Nobody would ever look at it as being the car's fault.
Yeah. And I think that's right. But here's the scary part about that. And I say scary in that, the car manufacturers really have to get this part fixed, because when the car manufacturer is telling you that car is gonna break if something jumps in front of you, then the likelihood of you actively paying attention and having that readiness that we have when we're driving and we're paying attention, your readiness is going to be extremely low. And so they can say all day long that, that part of that responsibility is on you, but it's not exact. I mean, the cruise control is a really good analogy, but it's not an exact analogy, because, the cruise control does not tell you that it's going to break. This does. And that's going to be the really interesting part when it hits the courts.
True. That is going to be something that is going to come up, and probably a ton of other things, because as the more you give the responsibility to handle situations to the car, the less the person behind the wheel is going to think they have to react. So something comes in front of the car. If the car stops 5 times, you're going to stop flinching and pressing on the brake if something comes in front, because you're going to assume the car is going to do what it's designed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what we were talking about earlier. So what happened an hour and a half ago, is that the Tempe police released the video. Have you seen this?
I have not.
Okay, let me try to explain it to you. And for those who are interested, we'll put a link to this in the show notes. Now, I hate these videos because I don't, it's like we've been involved with, car accidents for a long time, you and I, but I don't want to see somebody get run over. I don't. Tempe police did a really good job editing this, and so that it brings you up till the moment before impact, so you see exactly how it happened, but you're not going to see someone get run over. And that's really good. And it also puts in there the interior cam. And so you see the driver, and she's not paying attention. And so that's notable. But here's the thing, is that, okay, so it's dark. I'm gonna try to describe this. It's a dark road. There are street lights on the road itself, but it is a 4-lane highway with a median. And so all you see in the picture are the 2 lanes going in the same direction. And the pedestrian is walking her bicycle across this highway, not crosswalk or anything, not at a light. And she's doing it like in that spot in between 2 street lights where it's just completely dark, and it's like, she didn't even get underneath the street light where she could be seen. The bicycle, normally on the spokes of the bicycle, you have some reflectors or something. I see none of those. Literally the first hint we see of this woman is when the headlights hit her far too late for that car to have stopped. Even if the brakes were mashed, far too late for that car to have stopped. It is, I'm going to actually, And I don't know. I mean, this is a highway. I'm guessing as to the speed, but it's certainly, it's certainly not 25. We're guessing 45, 50. From the moment I first see this woman in the video to when the video pauses right before the accident is a second and a half. That's far too late for that car to have stopped. And so I am not at all any more convinced that car is at fault for this accident. I'll be very interested to watch to see how this turns out. But, I mean, this is one of those things. It's like, if you're out walking at night, you gotta be aware of your surroundings, and if you're crossing a road, not at a crosswalk, not at a traffic light, not at a stop sign, try to make sure that you're in the light. And this woman most definitely was not. And so I do not see how either the car's automated process or the driver possibly could have avoided this accident.
And keep in mind that, Paul, you're coming at it from strictly an insurance view. And so whenever you give your insurance not at fault, has nothing to do with civil suits or public opinion or anything like that.
Right, yeah.
But from an insurance part of it, the conditions play a big part.
Yep.
If the driver saw the person, or if the person saw the car, if there was a crosswalk, who had the right of way, all those things are going to come into play.
Yeah.
And, it sounds like, there are a lot of things that need to, get changed for self-driving cars to go on the road. And that brings up, I just thought of something else that's kind of funny, because we're testing self-driving cars in a world that is not designed for self-driving cars, and putting them around the public that is not in tune with self-driving cars. And I remember this that I thought was really funny. Whenever the hybrid cars and electric cars started hitting the road, and I was living in California at the time, I remember something getting put on the law books that were pushing for the electric cars to actually make engine noise.
Yeah.
Because they were just too quiet and people were stepping out in front of them, or they didn't even hear it coming. And so that was another thing, putting this technology in a world that's not built for that technology. And you're always going to have some clashes there.
Yeah. I'm reminded of that episode of The Office where Andy and Dwight are dueling, and Andy chooses his weapon as his car, and that's how he actually wins, is because at a certain speed you can't actually hear his car, so he was able to sneak up on Dwight from behind. These are real life situations, except they didn't happen in real life. But yeah, the only thing I wanted to add on this is we might it's going to be really interesting to watch this one from an insurance point of view. What I think might actually happen is that the insurance might, even if they believe that that the pedestrian was actually at fault, they might just pay this one just for public relations. Because if the headline splashes up that Uber self-driving car runs over a lady and then denies the claim, that's bad press. That's bad press. And I could totally, and like, you and I, we're going to sit here and watch the video and think, you know what? I think Uber might be right on this one. But the general public does not do that. And so, they might want to avoid the bad press and just figure, you know what, paying out the claim is better than the media coverage that we're going to get on this one.
Exactly. I think that is the case.
Yeah.
That will happen. But I don't know who you talk to that doesn't want to see an accident, but those get a lot of views.
Oh, no. It's specifically me. It's specifically me. It's like, no, I know.
That's
like,
right.
I mean, I follow a lot of like, dash cam, groups on Facebook. Because I just find it fascinating how these accidents turn out. But they do some of them that are, dealing with pedestrians. Like, I don't really want to see that. I want to see, the crazy ones when the car slips on ice and does, crazy twirls and stuff. That's kind of what I'm after, but anyways, we're going to keep watching this one. In the meantime, we thank you so much for joining us today. Please do check out our website. It's covered.net for those of you who do tune in every single week. We really do appreciate it. We love spending our Monday mornings with you, kind of getting pumped up for the week, kind of getting the insurance juices flowing. For those who are new, we do this every Monday morning, bright and early. So no matter when your commute is, we will have an episode up for you, to download, to listen in on the way to work, to hopefully, kind of have this be your kind of Monday morning stretches for the insurance part of your brain to kind of get you ready to go. But, thanks again so much for joining. Mel, thank you for, welcome back. We're glad to have you. And
glad to be back, and looking forward to the week, and try to protect somebody and change their mind about how they look at insurance.
Absolutely. Sounds good. All right. We'll see you next week.